You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Info Media.
Welcome, Nick. Thank you very much for taking time out and being here to share your experience around the interface of observability, which is pretty new to the industry. I know that SolarWinds is a technology management company. So I've been doing this from ages. It's a new piece and it is influencing big time to your services to the customers. So how observability has evolved from the day it coined?
Thank you for having me, Sanjay. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to have a discussion with you. So observability, the term observability has been now around for a few years, but as you said, it's still relatively a new term. And certainly the technology associated with observability has evolved over time. Observability is certainly associated very closely with monitoring. Sometimes there is discussion in the industry about what's observability versus monitoring, and are they completely different? They're part of the same family, so to speak. Monitoring, really, at the end of the day, is a subset of observability. You're monitoring certain aspects, you're monitoring certain outputs, but overall, observability is an umbrella term to include monitoring of several, say, aspects or several components. Ultimately, the main difference between observability and monitoring is monitoring, it just focuses on one or two outputs, and it's just measuring the changes of a particular value, versus observability, which is looking at a broader system, a more expansive system, and is trying to get answers for the person that is using observability about the performance of the system, as opposed to one or two outputs. I would say observability now is more expansive technology that is looking at the operation of a system, at the end-to-end operation of a system. In particular, if we start thinking about an application or a service, a digital service that is targeting an end user. And it could be just any e-commerce application or any digital service that we all use on a daily basis. As you can imagine, there are a lot of components of that system that contribute to the user experience that I will experience as a user. And as such, because those components have evolved over time, observability as a technology that is attempting to look at the end-to-end performance of that system has also evolved. So if we think about an end user that is accessing an application or a service, nowadays, most of us access applications over the internet, and the network component, as well as where the application is hosted, has evolved dramatically over the last 10, 15 years. Think about cloud native applications, think about different types of network with local components, wide area network components, the internet itself, and the associated services with that, how applications are distributed, sometimes hybrid type of applications. So when you try to understand the performance of an end-to-end system, like an application, given that the application and the system itself has evolved in terms of how it's delivered to the end user, observability has to also evolve to take into account the end-to-end system and its evolution. So I would right now say that observability needs to take into account how applications and digital services are delivered to the end users, and that's as opposed to focus on just one component of the application. So again, I think of the main components of a system, the end user device, most of the cases would be a computer or a browser, the network itself, and that could be a very complex hybrid type of infrastructure, local area networks, wireless networks, Wi-Fi networks, cellular networks, the internet itself with all its associated components, CDNs, DNS, and then the application that could be hosted anywhere in the cloud over a number of services. Some components could be on-prem, some components could be in the cloud. So you can imagine now observability is trying to capture data from all these systems to say, well, the end user had a great experience, or if the end user didn't have a great experience, well, the problem was in the application side in the cloud, or the problem was in the internet, or there was a problem with the last mile delivery of the application to the end user. So that's it really. It comes to, you have to look at systems end to end, and observability tools have to go touch everything that contributes to the performance of the application. So now with this new announcement and our database observability solution that we announced, first of all, just a couple of things about the announcement itself. Database observability is a component of our overall observability solution in the market. This is a SaaS solution that we delivered in the market back at the end of 2022. So that's like over a year ago. And this is a cloud native SaaS observability solution, meaning that customers can use the entire observability solution or components of it. And like the fact that applications have and observability has to take care of different components, has to take care of the end user side, the network side, the application side, and the database side. We build our solution in a way that is modular, meaning that you can buy the entire thing, you can use the entire thing, and observe and measure the performance of the end-to-end application from the end user all the way to the application database, or you can consume it module by module. So database observability is a module, it's a component of our end-to-end observability SaaS solution. And its goal is to look deep into the database part of the application, which, by the way, is generally neglected by other observability solutions in the market. And generally, I would say, if you see most of the observability vendors, when people talk about applications, I would say the database is, in generally speaking, relatively ignored as a component. And we know from past experience and from reality that database problems can contribute to application issues. A poor end user experience can contribute to slowness. If you're making a query, if the application is making a query, you can imagine that if there's a problem in the database, that could contribute to a poor end user experience. The application is slow, and slow is the new down, as you know, right? And if applications are slow and users get frustrated, they move to a different application, a different service. Slow is the new down, and there's a reason why we say that nowadays. So that's the piece that we just announced about a few weeks ago. The database observability component that can be consumed as a standalone module or as part of the overall observability suite. Within SolarWinds observability, there are other components that touch on every component. There are other modules, I should say, that touch every component of the application, like I mentioned earlier. There is a digital experience monitoring component, which focuses on the end user, the browser experience, collecting metrics from the browser. There is also a synthetic monitoring component there, which is part of our digital experience monitoring of observability. there are network observability components, application observability components, and then now database observability components. So these are the main components of our overall modules, I should say, of our overall observability solution. And this announcement specifically focused on observability of the database. And it's unique, makes the observability solution of SolarWinds unique in its ability to look at a variety of databases that the end user could be using within the application of the service, and gives you this granular ability to identify database problems, which are a major contributor to application problems. And it's all integrated. It's part of the same suite. It's part of the same overall solution, so to speak. The UI of our observability is just single UI. You have access to the digital experience monitoring components, the application, as well as the database observability components. It's part of the same UI, so it's a very unified, integrated experience for the IT team that will be using our observability solution, which is again makes us unique in the market to have a database observability module within observability that allows you to look at a variety of databases and monitoring very closely just to proactively identify problems that ultimately will contribute to poor user experience. At the end of the day, that's where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. If the database is going wrong, or if the application itself is going wrong, if there's problems in the network, you want your observability solutions to find these issues early before they severely impact the user experience. You don't want a bad, obviously, user experience for your application. As we said earlier, slow applications that stall, applications that crash, result in lost customers, lost business. It's significantly impactful for the company.
Nick, why a customer or developer only go for database observability? Is there a use case or examples?
Yeah, what we have seen in the market and what we know from our experience in being in the monitoring, the observability space and serving hundreds of thousands of customers is that other monitoring or observability solutions treat the database as a black box, as a kind of a sort of an external component, so to speak, of the application that it goes wrong and you don't quite know what went wrong. And that's true. Like I said earlier, if you see the majority of the observability solutions tend to sort of not necessarily take into the database into account. And when it comes to diving deep into trying to understand what happened, most of observability solutions, or many observability solutions, I should say, just stop there. They might be able to tell you that there is a problem with the database, but then you're left wondering what the issue might be. And we just don't think this is adequate. We just don't think that's sufficient for any company, any application owner, any development team that manages the application, builds, launches, and runs a major application. An e-commerce, think about an e-commerce application. If I want my observability solution to tell me very quickly where the problem is and identify the root cause, so I can fix it quickly, so I'm at least minimize the impact on my business, on the end user experience. So when it comes to database, if whatever I've chose for observability tells me that there's a problem in database but doesn't tell me what the problem is, I have to now use a separate tool, or perhaps I have to spend more time trying to identify the root cause and fix the problem within the database. That could be a major distraction. That could be a major outage for the application itself. And we just don't think that's acceptable. And that's why we're taking it all the way into we extending the standard, let's say, observability capabilities offered by other vendors deep into the database. So we'll be able to tell you not only that there's a problem within the database, we'll tell you what the problem is. And we've seen from experience that many application outages or performance issues are caused by a problem within the database. So for us, it's only natural to want to dig deep into the application itself. Now, there are other specialist tools out there that help companies and teams monitor and troubleshoot, identify problems within the database. And we also offer those solutions as well, especially if the database is a critical component of an application. We have other database performance monitoring solutions that we offer to customers that's special, or let's say for use cases that require that sort of deep dive into a very important database. But for the teams that want to look at applications holistically, or the service itself holistically end-to-end, that don't necessarily want to be using separate tools, we offer database observability as part of our observability suite, observability solution, which is completely integrated and unified. And again, it comes down to what I said earlier, that applications right now are entire end-to-end systems, and every system interacts with each other. And you don't want to, in most cases, in many cases, look at the components of the application separately. It's important to look at them end-to-end through the lens of an end-to-end observability solutions, because one component of the application impacts the other. And there's often the need to correlate events. Well, this happened over here and impacted the performance of this component, which ultimately slowed down the application, or the end user experienced an outage or a slowness. Well, you have to look at the issue end-to-end, as opposed to, well, I saw a problem over here, but I don't know if it's impacting another system. So that's why we offering database observability as part of our overall observability end-to-end solution. Now, if a customer has a need to focus very deeply into a single type of database that is absolutely crucial for the type of service or system that they're running, they want a specialized tool for that specialized database. In those cases, we offer a standalone database performance monitoring solutions. A good example here would be one of the most common database types out there, Microsoft SQL Server, which is used extensively in the industry. We have a very specialized tool called SQL Sentry, SolarWinds SQL Sentry, that is very extensive in its ability to understand the performance of that Microsoft SQL Server. Very specialized, and also requires a sophisticated user of that application, a very sophisticated organizational structure from an IT perspective, a database administrator, a database reliability engineer, people that live and breathe databases and want that sort of extensive deep dive and very sort of rich feature set, so to speak, from the monitoring solution that can cover all aspects of the database performance. So it depends on the use case, it depends on the organizational structure, it depends on the sophistication of the actual user, in this case the administrator, rather, I should say. And you know, right now for us, it makes sense to offer them both types of solution. An overarching database observability solution that is part of an overall end-to-end observability solution, which is SolarWinds observability, or a standalone tool for very specialized use cases when the database user or the database administrator is very sophisticated and requires deep and wide capabilities. So, you know, the market is going to require both types of solutions for a while. At some point, you know, we see where this takes us. For us, for now, we're just addressing the needs of the market as it stands. But we also see that with having a standalone tool as well as a database capabilities, observability capabilities within an integrated unified suite, it's a good mix to offer to the customers.
Nick, you know, SolarWinds is one of the major database management providers, and you have got competition also. Those who have got own database, starting from Oracle, AWS, and other companies, right? So, are you also open, or are they also open to your, you know, collaboration with you? Are you having any collaboration with the leaders in the technology?
Yeah, we heavily rely on partnerships with the hyperscalers and the cloud providers, and obviously the big two, AWS and Microsoft. For us, those cloud providers and hyperscalers are a major provider of underlying infrastructure technology for applications. People are running their applications in the cloud. They're running the databases in the cloud, as you can imagine. So we also have to offer monitoring and observability tools that takes into account how customers are deploying applications and databases. So very close collaboration with both AWS and Microsoft. And again, we're offering deployment flexibility. And ultimately for us, it's important to be where the customers want to run applications and databases, whether they want to run it on-prem or in the cloud. We're offering that flexibility. And it's important for us to be able to cover that sort of wide deployment scenarios when it comes to database and applications as a whole.
So what is the ROI of the enterprises?
Probably the most important requirement here when it comes to offering a great ROI to a company is how quick the ramp up time. Can I deploy very quickly? Is the tool easy to use? How long will it take me to be in a position to cover my application itself? So ease of use, ramp up time is very important. So there's a significant amount of effort that goes into ease of use. So everything that I mentioned so far, the fact that everything that you need is in a single UI. Every component of the application that you need to monitor or observe, from the end user all the way to the database, is part of the same single UI. You don't have to jump from one screen to another. You don't have to jump from one tool to another. It's all there. And more importantly, you have the ability to correlate events that happen in different components of the application. An application issue correlated with a database issue, a network issue correlated with an end user issue. That's probably the most important thing. So which contributes to how quickly you can identify problems, ideally proactively. Ideally, the system allows you to see an event, see something that is happening that is not normal. It's an anomaly. It's something that you don't expect to see. And you can address it before it has an impact on your customer experience. So ease of use, ease of deployment, quick ramp up, and then the ability to proactively address issues is ultimately what we want to offer. That gives you the best ROI.
Okay, another typical question.
Sure.
comes to my
Yeah.
mind is that like the one DevOps or DevSecOps or even DevIOps, these days people are, from the scratch, they inbuilt even AIOps also. So can observability be, inbuilt into it than subscribing from a siloed platform as a separate technology?
Yeah, good question. AI ops or AI, obviously a very relevant term in another technology. It's maybe a topic for another discussion with you at some point. We are underpinning platform for SolarWinds observability this is where we're leveraging AI technology to help provide those deep the insights that the customers need. I didn't talk about AI in general just because this was more of a database observability focused discussion. But this is how we're looking at the AI right now and where we are deploying it. We're deploying it in the underpinning platform in everything that I mentioned around event correlation, everything that I mentioned about seeing different things happening in different components of the application, being able to actually provide an answer to the user of the technology and saying, okay, this is where your problem is enabled partly by AI, which is built into our underpinning platform for SolarWinds observability. So AI is there, and AI continues to get advanced with more and more capabilities. But ultimately, the role of the AI in our solution is to quicker answers, better event correlation, but also, to your point earlier, potentially see an anomalous behavior. You're seeing something that is just suspect, and you want to dive deeper into that. And definitely that's the role of AI. It's definitely like observability, AI and AIOps is riddled with confusion in the market right now. Even the analysts don't necessarily agree of what AIOps is in the context of observability, monitoring, DevOps, and everything. I can tell you, I talked to many analysts from the major analyst firms, analysts like Gartner, Forrester, and they also have differences of opinion about the definition of it. Like, and it gets even worse when you start talking to end users and customers out there. There's definitely some confusion, but that's normal in any sort of early phase of the market and its technology evolution. But look, right now, AI for us is enhancing our ability, improving our ability to deliver answers to our customers, and that's the role it plays. AI in itself, though, needs to be part of an observability solution that does everything that I mentioned so far in this call. No blind spots, great instrumentation, touching and instrumenting, collecting telemetry from all the pieces that can affect application performance and end user experience. And ease of use, an integrated system, unified AI, unified UI, everything. And AI is a component of it, but we're not selling AI. AI is there to enable better insights, quicker answers, better event correlation, and all that good stuff.
How many use cases? Which are the industries that embracing SolarWinds observability, particularly in database observability?
Yeah, the use cases and if you're looking at overall what we offer to companies that come to us with a database problem or a database performance question or a need, they come from all walks of life, so to speak. They're coming from very large companies, from mid-sized companies, all geos globally, but also from different verticals. Financial services, retail, and and other types of verticals out there, manufacturing, services. There isn't really one particular vertical, if you like, that we've seen success. The financial services, of course, vertical is something that we have a pretty strong hold in the market and an understanding of it. It is often a very well-regulated industry, and when it comes to databases, can be a very crucial component of their offering, and something that they feel very strongly about, that they have to monitor and manage very, very carefully. We're also seeing use cases coming from the health vertical, health services vertical, as well. So it is the important thing here to point out is that databases are everywhere. In any kind of digital service or any application, there's a database, and there isn't one particular vertical that stands out. The health verticals, the health industry vertical, the financial services, and the retail verticals are three verticals really that I can think of that we've seen a lot of success, and we've seen many deployments for our observability. Sorry, for our database performance management solutions as a whole. Now it becomes more interesting when you dive a little bit deeper and you start seeing how applications and databases are deployed. And like I said earlier, it comes down to, you choose a standalone tool versus database observability, which is part of an integrated suite. If you are generally a modern service and application, you're deployed in most likely a big parts of the application deployed in the cloud, and you have a team that is looking at the service end to end to include the database, versus a standalone team, a specialized team that wants to carefully manage the standalone database that is very crucial for the company itself. That's when you would use a standalone tool versus the integrated tool where database observability is part of. So I would say mid to upper large market, and a variety of verticals, and the ones I mentioned are probably the most prominent ones.
All right, Nick, last two questions very quickly. What is the kind of growth you are seeing, you expect for observability platform with this on-premise SaaS platform?
So our since the launch of the observability offering in October 2022, we've seen obviously a huge sort of ramp up. Any new product in the market, in its initial growth as a percentage will be high. And for us, this is a major part of our strategy to offer the best observability solution in the market, and the richest, the most extensive, the most modern, the most sophisticated, the one that's easiest to use. Ease of use is obviously well, I shouldn't say obviously, it's definitely a cornerstone of our ethos, our value as a vendor. We've always known for offering simple to use solutions. That's where we come from. So that extends obviously to observability, observability as a whole is an extensive part of it's a very important crucial part of our strategy. So that's why we're seeing new capabilities like database observability being there, and continue growing that technology stack and improving it, and building more extensive AI capabilities. So you will see more and more announcements coming out in 2024. And you will see over time some of our standalone tooling, some of our standalone tools and offerings out there being integrated into this SaaS offering. That will take some time, and of course we're keeping an eye on what the users want and how users and customers deploy the products and how they manage the services. But we've seen tremendous growth. It's been a great year so far in 2023, which is really the first year that the solution's been in the market. Database observability, it will be a very important component of that going into 2024. We've already seen customers coming to us with a database problem or a database from a let's say from a database use case standpoint, and we talk to them about database observability, and then they see the value of the overall end-to-end observability solution, what they can do with that. So often, database is the first need that triggers the discussion with a prospect, and it's a way into the observability suite, which is interesting if you think about it.
What is the kind of evolution we can see further from now within the stack of observability from SolarWinds?
Yeah, from a database perspective, you mean?
Maybe it's yes, you can start with database perspective. Extend to other observability.
So for us, when it comes to the roadmap into next year, we want to continue enhancing the use cases that we currently support. You will see more advanced, more and more features added to every aspect of observability. And again, think about observability as one solution and individual applications within database observability to tackle every component of the application from the end user all the way to the database. And within the context of that, customers are asking for more features, more capability, better correlation, faster troubleshooting, want to get to root cause a lot quicker, which involves the continuous evolution of our AI capabilities within that. So you will see more and more capabilities that aim to do that, which is find a problem, pinpoint the issue very, very quickly. There's an incident. Okay, I can quickly detect the incident. I can troubleshoot the incident very, very quickly. You can get to root cause and fix the issue incredibly quickly compared to the past, which is a major headache for companies, right? What companies don't want, they don't want the application to go wrong. The service, which could be a business critical service that the business relies on to make money, to survive, you don't want that service to go down. You don't want that service to suffer an outage. You don't want the service to be slow. You don't want the performance to be subpar compared to your competitors. So you want to get to the problem and fix it to minimize or have zero impact on end user experience in your business. So that's what we want to focus on. We want to focus on that sort of incident detection, root cause analysis, and fixing it very, very quickly. So you will see some offerings coming out next year that really specialize on that. And as I mentioned earlier, some of the standalone offerings that we have outside the realm of our unified observability solution will be in the future part of the same platform. We want to leverage that single technology stack and a unified technology stack as much as possible. And as more and more customers look to move from, say, on-prem monitoring solutions to SaaS offering solutions, we want to offer capabilities to them that support that journey for them moving from on-prem into SaaS, into the cloud, and of course, from us is a SaaS offering. But I'm sure you'll be hearing from us as we're making more and more announcements in the future. Keep an eye on for the first half of 2024. There'll be some pretty exciting things that we announce out there.
Okay, Nick, probably since you raised this question, raised this point of on-prem to SaaS or cloud, most regulated industries like BFSI, they prefer not to go to cloud, or they're very conservative in terms of migrating to the cloud. Given this today's situation of the cybersecurity, the way the APT groups are creating havoc in the industry and geopolitical situation as well. So
Yeah.
you're mostly offering those organizations which are going for SaaS mode, not for on-prem.
Okay, that's a good point, and I want to make sure that there's clarity here. We want to offer monitoring and observability management or IT management capabilities to our customers wherever they are in the journey, and that flexibility of deployment is part of what we're known for. We're not going to force you to deploy SaaS if that's not what you want to do. But it's important here to make a distinction. And sometimes there's misunderstanding, and vendors sometimes confuse the message here, and the narrative, which is not helpful. Where a customer of ours wants to deploy is up to them, and as you mentioned, it really comes down to their environment, the business they're in. There are application systems, there's services that are never going to be deployed in the cloud. This is because for any variety of reasons, industry regulation, security concerns, nature of the business, and those pieces are going to be on-prem. Now, how you monitor, how you manage the performance of that system doesn't have to, it doesn't necessarily need to be following the deployment scenario, meaning you can still monitor an on-prem component from the cloud, or vice versa. You can monitor a cloud component from on-prem. So sometimes there is definitely a connection between your application or system deployment and how you want to deploy your management solution, but not always. They're not the same thing. So a couple of things I'll leave you with. We're offering deployment flexibility for our customers. If you want SaaS because it's more flexible, it gives you it allows you the ability to move from one place to another. That's fine. If you prefer the subscription and sort of deployment flexibility that comes from SaaS, that's great, and we're offering that. But if you want to keep your data, if you're monitoring an on-prem component and you don't want your data to leave your premises, an on-prem deployment is also capable, and we're offering that deployment flexibility for a variety of use cases, including database, like I mentioned earlier, but also network application as well, and end user. So you can do everything that you can with SolarWinds Observability, which is a SaaS offering, on-prem, if that's the deployment scenario you want to follow. We have a solution that we call hybrid cloud observability, as well as other standalone offerings that get deployed on-prem, if that's what the customer wants to use. We're not going to force anybody to deploy SaaS. Neither do we say that you have to deploy your applications in the cloud in order for us to do business with. So flexibility, deployment flexibility is number one, and we plan to maintain offering that flexibility to clients for the foreseeable future until, of course, the market takes a shift. But we're not there yet. Like I mentioned, I think many companies will offer, want to stay on-prem with the systems and the services, and also want to keep the management on-prem as well. And that's fine. That we will be where the customer wants us to be when it comes to deployment scenarios.
All right, then. Thank you very much.
Sanjay, great to meet you, and thanks for the time.